this unit, we will learn how to convert our text into shape. Let's have a look. As you notice, when we create a typography, we cannot really use the white arrow in order to adjust any of the corners or anchor points on the typography. We can't even access the anchor points. In order to be able to turn your typography to a shape, you need to expand your typography, which if you do so, you will not be able to further edit your text as the text itself. So make sure you firstly finalize the editing of your text, and once you're happy with it, I would suggest you to actually clone your typography. So I'm using Alt and Shift key and have it somewhere outside your canvas in case you need to do a step backwards and access it again. And then expand your typography using the Object Expand panel. If you don't see Expand enabled, click firstly on Expand Appearance and then go to Object Expand. Press OK and you see how the typography turned into shapes. And I do have access to the anchor points and all the details. For example, what I can do with that is clone my object and create a bit of a three-dimensional execution. So I'm gonna color this a bit lighter so I can see the difference. Lock the first clone of the hello and use the white arrow to adjust some anchor points. It doesn't really matter that I'm ruining the typography since you don't really see what's going on behind. I'm gonna use my pen tool in order to create those shapes that I'm missing at the top, and perhaps recolor them so I can actually see them better. And so on. I'm gonna create another rectangle here, another one here to connect those two shapes, and a last one here. I'm gonna select my white arrow and reposition those anchor points that I didn't place properly while creating the shape. And I'm gonna grab my pen tool to also create the E letter here at the bottom. What I'm doing is just connecting the front and the back shapes, and this way they feel like they're three-dimensional. What I actually need is also here the E letter to be like lighter at the back and darker here. So I'm gonna double click to access that group, and I'm gonna use the eraser tool in order to erase the letter somewhere here. And this allows me now to select the back side by itself, the front, and so on. I will do the same for the O letter. And get out of this group. Use my white arrow to grab the shape and recolor it. Same applies for the O letter. The only thing now it's missing is this part here, which also feels like it needs to be three-dimensional. So I'm gonna create a new shape with my pen tool and arrange center back so I can have the dark blue at the front. And you see how like a simple two-dimensional typography turned into a shape and then into a whole composition. You can unlock that and further edit. So for example, you can say hello, then underneath something like hi. So I'm gonna ungroup all of those. So object, then ungroup, or Shift Command G, Shift Control G in order to be able to access each of the shapes separately. I'm gonna clone this bar here. I select with my white arrow all those anchor points. I'm pushing them farther down. I'm gonna clone the shape and group it. Right click to group, double click, white arrow to push down that part. And perhaps that was a bit far down. So I'm selecting all those anchor points, move them slightly down. And hi, it's also spelled nicely there. And let's do some exclamation marks perhaps with those ones here. My smart guides are allowing me to nicely align them with the other shapes. That feels a bit more consistent. And this way you can really easily and quickly create a lovely composition just by expanding your typography. Use the tools that we show, such as the pen tool, the white arrow, to actually move parts around. I just realized as well that we missed here the H letter. It doesn't have a depth. So I'm gonna go ahead and add an extra shape here, recolor it with the light blue. And I'm gonna clone it as well on the high option underneath. Smart guides again are helping me to perfectly position my objects quickly. And here we go, job done.
So this is all what you need to know in order to work with typography in Adobe Illustrator. Now it's time to give it a go and practice a bit. I will show you in the next practical phase.